Thanks for joining.
I'm Reese.
I'm Joe. You're listening to Poly By Nature,
the podcast where you can have your cake and eat it too. How was your day?
It was long. I had meetings all day and I was all over the place today. And as you can see, I'm still dressed halfway for work. So,
well, I appreciate you doing this after a long day of work.
I'm here for it. Let's jump into this.
All right. So today we are addressing our listener and viewer questions. Mm-hmm. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to DM us on Instagram, comment under our YouTube channel, and we'd love to address them either in the comments or through a video. We also have an email that's in all the descriptions of the videos as well.
Shout out to us. Come on. Send us some questions. We're here for the answers.
Okay. So question 1 says, what's the difference between what you guys do and polygamy? You want to start or you want me to go?
So we're polyamorous.
Correct.
Meaning that we are not married, specifically to start.
Yeah.
We're polygamy.
Well, you can be married.
You can be married, but polygamy is more towards married couples who have men who have multiple wives with the idea that, they're strictly for that one person and not so much open at all.
Right. So polygamy is marriage, and it's either a husband with multiple wives or the less common, a wife with multiple husbands. And like you said, they're usually closed. It could be more than 2. It could be, 3 or 4. I've seen the numbers go up pretty high.
25 wives.
But yes, it is a marriage. It is usually one person with multiple spouses. So that marriage is between that one person and each of those wives or husbands.
Correct. A much different dynamic that is not us.
Very much so. And polygamy is also illegal in a lot of countries.
Specifically where we live in the United States. So you cannot legally marry multiples yet.
Oh, you think it's coming?
Sooner than later. I mean, everything's
coming back, I should say.
Right. I think at some point you'll realize that there's an openness to love and that, I don't know, the religious shouldn't be technically swayed by what the government says. If you want to marry 25 women.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Okay. 4, 5, whatever makes you happy. Listen, if at the end of the day, if it makes you happy and it doesn't hurt anyone.
Well, yeah, but I think polygamy specifically has had a bad rep for a very long time.
Correct.
And you see controlling, you see underage, you see these dominant controlling husbands and these supposed to be submissive wives.
Right.
And I don't think when it comes to the wives that there's always much choice and say so in, who enters the relationship.
And I think that's the one thing when we said we were poly, we had to define what our poly was to people because it was the idea that it was some type of controlling type feel to it where you were being submissive to me only and I was bringing someone else in and you didn't have say so or there wasn't a voice or something from you. So, when we introduced poly in our world to some people, we had to define what that was because, again, the first idea was submissiveness and no voice and things of that nature. So, we're polyamorous, not polygamist.
And I think a lot of people have seen the shows, what is it? Sister Wives and Big Love and even Escaping Polygamy, where it just seems like this horrible thing that
and again, we don't live that life. So it's
we just recently watched a YouTube video of a guy in Jordan where polygamy is legal.
Yep.
And he took on another wife. And it was actually his first wife's idea that he marry another wife. And their relationship seemed very ethical and consensual.
Yeah. And so we're not knocking polygamy. We're just saying that in the real world, it's not us. And it's not as common as you would seem when it comes to just what is portrayed out there right now.
I've also seen in the Black community and on social media where Black people praise polygamy in a sense that it builds communities and families, support for women and children, and encourages the bond between women in a culture. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how people are definitely for it in some aspects, but it's not necessarily our relationship or how we have structured our relationship based on something like that.
Yeah, no. I was thinking about the idea when we had a neighbor in our past, and he was telling me that his brother had passed away and his brother's wife had become his wife with his other wife that they actually already had.
Who?
Our neighbor from the old hood.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah. But he was Muslim and it made sense. He was just saying how if his
I know who
brother
you're talking
passed
about.
away, it's his duty and responsibility to take his wife and his brother's children in as his own. So I can
Yeah.
respect that on a religious level where he now has two wives. It doesn't mean that the wives are connected in a way of any sexual way or anything like that. They're just simply raising a community of family together as a whole. So on that level, I can respect it. I can see it. I understand it. I don't necessarily know that I want to ever be involved with that because I wouldn't want to lose anybody that I love, but I understand it.
Okay. So on to the next one.
On to the next one.
So this says polyamory, open relationships, swingers. Do you consider us to be under all of those things?
Polyamorous, open relationships, and swingers. So we're not swingers. I'll just start at the end. We are not swingers.
We're not swingers.
We are not swingers.
So what is swinging? Swinging is like when a couple dates together and involved in sexual relations together outside of their marriage, like with another couple or even with one other person as like a threesome or something like that.
Correct. So no, we're not doing that. But at the end of the day, not knocking it. And here's the thing: we will never knock a relationship or a connection with anybody that feels like. If you're a swinger, we praise you because that make you happy as a couple.
We've been to a swingers club.
We've been to a swingers club. It was kind of interesting, but that I can't wait to have a conversation about our swingers club thing, but that's a whole nother episode.
And you don't have to be a swinger to go to a swingers club. It's not just for swingers. You can be a monogamous couple and go to a swingers club.
Correct. Or a people watcher. Or just like, what's going on over there? So, and what was the, no, right.
Okay, so open relationships. Sometimes I use open relationships and polyamory interchangeably.
Yeah.
As the same thing. But I think open relationships is like a couple who has sexual relationships, not necessarily together like swingers, but individually outside of their relationship. Right. But there are rules or restrictions on emotions and feelings and how close you get to those people.
So like no real deep connections.
Like it's almost like a sex thing.
It's like almost don't ask, don't tell. Like we'll have separate partners, but we don't really talk about them. We don't really want to know much about them. Wait a minute. And it's like, hey, here's the line. Go have sex with them, but don't date them so much. Don't be too connected with them.
Well, it's not necessarily don't ask, don't tell. You can tell.
Okay.
But I mean, you just don't get that close or involved with that other person. Your primary relationship is important, and that's what matters.
So then when you talk about us being polyamorous, it isn't open at that point.
Because we want actual relationships outside of each other.
Correct. We want real connections, real friendships, real things that come with everything that comes with talking to someone else. So when you be using the term, we open.
Yeah, I do use them.
You got to be careful there because somebody can be like, oh, y'all open?
Well, no. It doesn't just mean I'm looking for sex.
Be careful out there because then you're going to be open and swinging.
No. Okay. So the next one is specifically for you, Joe. And it says, do you ever plan to reach the level of care and protection you have for Reese for other women in your life? So the same care and protection you have for me, do you expect to have another partner and feel that same way about them?
In the long run, yes. But even, here's the thing, I was thinking about this. Even when I'm just simply courting someone or I'm with another person as a friend or whatever the case may be, I feel like I'm still protecting that person on the same level as you. That means if we're sitting at a restaurant and something goes down, I'm going to stand in front of that person to protect that person. So if the level of care and protection doesn't change based on who I'm with or anything of that nature. Now, when it goes on that deeper level, can I love someone the way I love you? I hope so, because I think the way that I love you is the deepest that I've ever learned to love. So if the time comes and I'm in a relationship with someone and it's really at that point of love, that I hope that they don't feel like they're getting less love for me or that they feel less of a person because I'm loving you in a more of a deeper manner. When the time comes, or if I'm with someone at that point, I don't want to have a gauge of love based on my dynamics. There's
Right.
no
You want
hierarchy
it
feel to it.
to flow.
Correct. Naturally. But again, in a way that is so real that there isn't a question of, man, who does he love more or less? Like, I don't want that to ever be a question for anyone. I just want it to be, man, he loves those people in his lives wholeheartedly and really, is effectively being the best man that he can be for the women in his lives at this point.
I can definitely see how someone can question that. And even a woman coming in that you're dating can say, well, can I ever reach that level that he
Right.
feels for her? Because you speak very highly of me.
Sometimes too much.
Sometimes too much when you're dating someone else.
Right.
And you talk about me a lot and you speak about me a lot. You bring me up a lot.
Right.
So I can see how that can be a little intimidating, and that person can think, well, is there even space for me here?
Right. And it's tough because I'm your biggest fan. So when I'm speaking to anyone else about us and you're involved in that conversation, I have to tell people how much I love you. And I want people to know where that level is. So that way it's not a conversation of like, is Reese okay with this conversation? Or is Reese okay with us talking? It's like, if I tell someone how much I truly love you and how much I'm really invested into you, then the opportunity is there for us to grow as friends and maybe more, but with the idea that, hey, Reese is in my life and she's a big part of my life. And it isn't for us to be compared to each other. It isn't for us to say, hey, Reese holds this level higher than you'll ever hold. Nothing like that. But I just want you to know, hey, like, this is how I'm going to treat Reese for all my life. And if you want to be treated that way and you want to be with me, then this is the level that you'll get from me. If that level works for you, then I'm the one.
So the same person adds, I wonder if watching this in playback, you saw how you both downplayed having other people in your life as if it lessens your connection as a couple. So
what do you think about that?
I'm not sure that I saw that we downplayed it, but I think it's definitely possible that we downplay having other people in our life because we talk about having friends, and I don't want us having friends to be a big deal.
Right.
Like, I want it to be a everyday, normal, accepted, oh, you're going out today? Awesome. I'll see you when you get back.
Right.
No big deal type thing. When we have more involved relationships and more romantic or intimate relationships, then maybe we can go more into giving more attention to those people. I don't think we would downplay anybody in that situation, but when it comes to like friends and stuff, we definitely just want it to be extremely normal because it took a long time for us to get to a point to where it's extremely normal.
Well, yeah, of course. And you don't want to just be like, hey, I'm going to get coffee with a friend and I want to make it the biggest event of my day and I got to tell you that is the best thing. Like, no, it's like we have normalized the ideas of just having friends. So I don't want to say that we downplay it, but at the end of the day, we just want to make it normal for us to have everyday lives that involves people.
And I definitely think that us seeing other people, whether it's friendship or romantic, definitely doesn't lessen our connection. If anything, we've learned that it has brought us a lot closer and just made our bond and our relationship just that much stronger.
Yeah, I agree. It's just making poly normal in our everyday lives and making connections normal in everyday lives. That doesn't mean that we have to bring them to a high level at all points in time. Not every friend is going to be something, right? Not every friend is going to be something that we're growing to be to a relationship. I don't have every female friend in my life isn't somebody I want to have sex with. And every male friend in your life is somebody you're not trying to have sex with or connect with on a level that's past a great friendship.
Right. And since you said that, I'm going to skip the next one just for a second and go to the next one after that, because it says you guys seem to have different. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Shit.
Are your dates just friend dates?
Yes, that one.
So the next question was, are your dates just friend dates? You refer to them as friends several times. Do you not see them as relationships?
Right. We do refer to a lot of our dates as friend dates because they usually are. When we meet people, we usually put them in a friend zone first.
Right.
And that's not a rule or anything. That's just kind of how we progress in meeting people.
Because I don't think we want to naturally jump in to say, okay, I want to date this person immediately from meeting them. I want to have a natural, organic way of flow of connection. And that involves us just being friends. Like my ideal person that I would be with outside of you is somebody to say, hey, over time, I've built this
Mhm.
friendship up and now it's becoming more than that.
Because
That's
in the beginning, you don't really know the person.
right. I don't want to like marry somebody on the first day I meet them. Like, hey, nice to meet you. What's your first name? And your last name is now my last name? No, come on.
So yes, we usually refer to people as friends. They may stay as friends, end up as acquaintances, just part of our network, whatever the case may be. And so, and a lot of times the hopes for the right person is that it does progress into a relationship or something like that.
Do you think that the idea from that question is maybe that in the poly world, our friends are more than friends at all points in time? Like we're always trying to have more out of people than just friendships?
Maybe. Maybe it's the idea that we are always looking for another partner.
You're right. But we're not though. And
Mm-mm.
that's the thing. We love connections. We love energy that's new. We love just learning from people. So
Mhm.
just like a monogamous person would, with just an acceptance from both of us being like, okay, go out and meet new people and learn new things.
All right. So let's me go back to the one that I skipped.
I know what this one, it was says, it sounds like Reese desires equitable connections
Mm,
for both of you, while Joe has a hard time imagining her connecting in that way with anyone else.
good job. You on point, babe.
So it's like, again, let me read it again. It sounds like Reese desires equitable connections for both
Mhm.
of you, while Joe has a hard time imagining her connecting in that way with anyone else. And I guess equitable connections would be sexual connections. Am I using that correctly? Or how would you define equitable connections?
I think it just means that I want us both to flow and be able to pursue whatever friendships or intimate relationships align with our lives at whatever point in time. Like
Right.
whoever we meet, whatever space they occupy in our lives, if it's just a friendship, then
Mhm.
that's fine. If it's more than that, if it's intimate, romantic, sexual, whatever the case, we have the right to then pursue that. And I want that for both of us.
Right. And I don't want the world to think that I'm like not keen to what you want in life
Mhm,
because I know what you want in life.
mhm.
I'm working towards that every day to be the guy and the man that says, whatever you want in life, I'm here to back you up. So I'm just the man that's coming to you every day saying, every day I want to be a little bit better and be more acceptance in a way that's transparent, in a way that's real and vulnerable.
I think that you being in that space where you are now, where you may or may not be okay with me being with someone else is perfectly okay because we have a relationship where you can speak about how you feel truthfully
Right.
and your insecurities, and it's perfectly okay. It's part of the transition and growing process.
Right. It wasn't
And
built over. Rome's not built overnight. So it takes some time to get from point A to point B. And monogamous to then poly took some time, and then to be poly, and then to go into other situations in poly. Like we said in the other episodes, poly is ever evolving. So with that evolution of our poly, I'm evolving. I'm growing. I'm learning. I'm getting through things that I used to have to hold on to. Now I'm kind of saying, okay, how do I let these things go and how do I grow from them? How do I know it's the right time to let things go? How do I feel about this insecurity? How do I feel about this disrespectful way of thinking that is like, oh, wait a minute, that's not how I have to feel. Like, I know why I feel this way. And maybe diving deeper into those scenarios and being able to let some things go, and but also being open to you and being and saying, "Ah,
right.
what
And
do I
we
do
got
here?"
into that in the previous episode 4,
Yeah.
the evolution of our polyamorous
Play that back if you haven't watched it.
relationship. Definitely take a look at that if you have not seen it.
Definitely.
Okay. So next it says, you guys seem to have different goals when it comes to dynamics. Do you have veto power over your partner's relationships? So an example of that would be, say you have a date of previous plans going out
Mhm,
to see someone else, and all of a sudden I say, no, I need you here.
mhm.
That I have final say over your relationship. And I don't agree with that, and I don't think it's healthy. And
No,
I don't think that it will be necessary for us.
no, and the idea is if I'm going out with someone
Mhm.
or I'm doing anything outside of this house, I want to make sure that I have fulfilled everything that I need to here. So I want to make sure that your cup is overflowing. I don't want to like leave on an empty note where the idea is like you're not fulfilled or you feel like you don't have that connection where it's like, hey, I'm going out and you feel like crap and I'll see you later. I want to make sure that at the end of the day, when I walk out the door, if I'm meeting someone else, friend or not, that home is taken care of. And that's important to me. So I don't want everyone to have a reason for you to veto something because I guess the idea of vetoing something is I don't want you to do something because of some reason. And maybe that reason just comes from an insecurity or something of that nature.
It could.
You know, I don't think there's boundaries. We know those that are in place right now. We have different boundaries that we have set for each other and had these conversations about. But I don't think there's something I need to say, you need to go and back in the house and you can't go outside and be with, a friend or go out and do something.
Right. I think I trust you, and you definitely consider me when you make any moves or any plans.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we do is out of love and respect
Right.
and consideration for each other.
Yeah.
So if there ever is a conflict or something like that, then we just communicate about it and we just figure it out.
Right. Talk about it.
I don't think we've ever had a serious situation where I'm like, you shouldn't do that or you can't do that.
Right.
But I think you had a simple coffee date one time. And I think the day before a doctor's appointment, I said, hey, I have a doctor's appointment. I would love for you to go with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you had plans.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big deal. You kind of pushed them back just a little bit and you were able to be in both places.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just bringing up what's important to each of us and then just communicating about it and see what it is. But if it's out of insecurities, then I think we just discuss those insecurities.
Yeah. And if I'm going out with somebody or I'm hanging out with somebody and something like a doctor's appointment comes up, and if I say, hey, Reese has a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I need to kind of reschedule or flip it around a little bit. If there's a 1% pushback on that, then that's a red flag for me, just so we're on the same page. I know it's not a conversation that we're jumping into, but if something comes up and I say, hey, I need to do something because it's important and I have to reschedule, and if there's somebody that just gives me some weird feeling about that.
You make final decisions on what you do, and I do the same. So there is no veto.
We just comprehend and communicate.
Okay. You ready for the last one?
And the last one is?
What is your ideal dynamic? Is that it? Is that what you have?
My last one says, what is your ideal dynamic?
Yes, that is it.
So ideal meaning my ultimate ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I would want a triad as my ideal dynamic.
And by the way, anybody who doesn't know, a dynamic is basically how your relationship looks. Is it
Right.
2 people, 3 people, 4 people? What is the relationship between each of those people in the relationship?
Right.
So yours is a triad.
So mine's a triad, and it's evolving because we were talking about this the other night, and it was like a triad could be open or closed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess in the end of the world for me, if I said, okay, hey, what would be my ideal? It would be a triad that evolves to be just pure love. I don't necessarily know that it needs to be closed at this point. It could be open, but it's got to have some boundaries and some ideas in there that actually make sense for everybody involved. But I guess that's my ideal goal dynamic. What about you? What's your ideal goal dynamic?
Mine, on my part, I guess would be a V,
Mm-hmm.
where I have a relationship with you and I have a relationship outside of you. That V, of course, will be open because then you have the freedom to have your relationships as well. So some type of flow like that will work for me.
Gotcha.
I don't think I need anything more than that when it comes to intimate and romantic type relationships.
You don't want 25 husbands.
No, I don't need multiple partners, but the goal is definitely to have a real relationship outside of my current relationship.
Yeah. Everyone feels this scenario where like when you get into a monogamous relationship, and again, not knocking monogamy, but like one set of rules and then it doesn't change. Like we have agreed upon this for in the beginning and this doesn't change.
Right.
Where in poly, we can kind of slowly and surely but evolve our ideas and kind of run things by each other without the feeling of guilt of saying, hey, my dynamic may feel like it could change, or, I feel like I'm changing, where we can actually have discussions saying, what do you think of this?
Right.
Or, hey, I don't know about something, or I don't understand something. And we can come back to each other and say, okay, I get that part.
Yeah, we've definitely had plenty of times when we have very different ideas about the same topic.
Yeah.
Like our views, our goals are very different. And the idea is not that one of us is wrong. We acknowledge both of us.
Right.
And we live in today and our relationship and what it is today. And we grow our relationship that we have right now. You know, we're not moving based on what we want in the future.
Right.
We want to move towards that. But at the same time, we're making the best of being in a relationship and loving each other and nurturing what we have.
Yeah, big time. But I think a lot of times now knowing what we know in the poly world, a lot of the things that we've learned works in the monogamous world. Great
Mhm.
communication, being honest with each other, and then having understandings of boundaries that say, hey, this is where I feel comfortable. When you're in a monogamous relationship, you don't have to have a boundary that says, okay, you can not talk to a female or not talk to a male. And I get that those are scenarios, but in a real world, if you could just kind of have great conversations, say, hey, this would make me happy or this makes me feel good.
That's the thing, though. I think that people hide that they talk to other people because there is not that safe space inside that relationship to say, hey, I'm interested in having more friends
Right.
of the opposite sex, or I'm interested in going out with people,
Right.
not necessarily in a sexual manner if we're talking monogamy, but just having friends and having social interactions and being able to engage with other people.
It's tough when I was a monogamous man, the idea of you having friends because there was an insecurity in there and just not being able to be honest about certain situations where I'm like, hey, this is okay for me to feel a certain way. But then also on the same point, I'm like, hey, I like having new relationship energy. So how do I come home and tell you I really had a great time talking to somebody I met randomly on the street today and she was a female without feeling like I was disrespecting you or cheating on
Mhm.
you or I had to answer a question about like who she was or what she looked like or something of that nature. So I think when it comes to that, the idea of talking about poly to us, to anybody that's listening, first and foremost, we're not trying to convert anybody to be poly at all. Secondly, we're just giving you information that we've learned so far. So it's like, here's what we've learned. Here's some things that we know. Here's some things that worked for us and some things that we failed at. But at the same point, it just gives us an opportunity to have that voice out there and saying, use us. Send us
Right.
questions like we were answering today. Send us ideas and we'll talk about them and we'll beat them up until we kind of get an idea of what they are. When you sent in the questions and we get these questions, we were able to kind of walk through these together and kind of say, how do you feel about this? And what do you think about that? That's how we communicate. We kind of bounce ideas
Right.
off each other and constantly see like, what does this make you feel like? Or how does this make you think, And so that's big for me.
Right. If there's one thing I can say to a monogamous couple who wants to, better their relationship, it would be create a safe space.
Right.
A safe space for non-judgmental, unjudged communication.
Right.
Like, ask yourself, can your partner come to you and say whatever it is they need to say, whatever it is they need in their relationship, whatever they're lacking in their relationship?
Right. You got a fly on your shoulder. That fly was like, oh, let me get up in this little relationship questionnaire. Y'all been killing my friends and family.
Okay, so yeah, that will be it, because I feel like a lot of relationships, monogamous relationships specifically, do not have that safe space for honesty.
Mm-hmm. Well, because it's not easy to be honest about your feelings when the idea could be that you could lose the one you love because you don't think they will accept you. It's hard to do that.
But you're not even acting on anything. You're literally just being honest.
Correct. But by being honest means you've been thinking about it, means that like,
But
oh,
here's the
it's
thing, you
something.
going to think about it regardless of whether you act on it and regardless of whether you bring it up to your partner.
Mhm.
It's going to be there.
It's going to be there. Communication of what you really want. But life is short and most people don't
Exactly.
truly live to pure happiness. And I'm not saying in a bad way, but a lot of people are afraid to be who they are because they're afraid to be alone. The idea is if I'm happy and I'm telling my partner everything I want and they can't check those boxes and I'm monogamous, then that means they're going to leave me and I'm going to be alone.
Well, you don't know that. There could still be growth inside of a monogamous relationship.
I hope so. Because I would, I want everybody to be happy.
Our next episode, I'm hoping to have a guest.
Yeah.
on the show.
That'd be dope. Anything else you want to say tonight?
Yes. So if anybody has any other questions, like I said before, put them in the comments, DM us, email us, and we will definitely address those questions. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. Hit us up with anything else that you may need.
Definitely.
Hey, thanks for listening. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
And connect with us on social media. You can find our links in the description.